Well, it's a very, very wet Assen that greets the 26-car strong field as they set off on the formation lap for the first race, a rolling start for the first race of the weekend for the Lotus Cup Europe. Very challenging conditions for the drivers, but a nice healthy grid as ever, which is headed up by Steve Williams on pole position, with Mark Schipper using his local knowledge alongside him. Jean-Baptiste Meusnier and Pete Story round out the second row with Christophe Desandre, and all French. Row 3 with Olivier Cunat. Jean Rass a little bit lower down than we'd expect to see in 11th, but a very strong qualifying from James Knight in 12th sees him heading up the production class runners. Philippe Loup and Yves Couraman rounding out the pack as we're about to get racing underway here at this historic Assen venue, best known for its motorcycle racing, but increasingly a venue of some repute for the four-wheel competitors as well. As away we go, and it's Steve Williams leading through the murk. That's the yellow number 18 car that you can see. It's also a good start from the orange machine of Jean-Baptiste Meusnier, who is moving Mark Schipper out of the way. Schipper in the white Exige running wide. The Exige is well up in qualifying this weekend. How they get on over the course of this race. Well, Schipper using the local knowledge all the way around the outside. He's going to take the lead. He was third as we saw him go into turn 1. As they go towards turn 3, Mark Schipper has taken the lead in these very tricky conditions. You can see the rain streaming down, and track conditions not ideal for the drivers. So Schipper leading from Jean-Baptiste Meusnier, then Steve Williams, as that is Christophe Desandre looking to the inside of Pete Story. Everybody cleanly through so far. No, they're not. Around goes Mark Goodey. Well, it's not, is it, Mark? Because he has spun to the rear of the field. So Schipper leading into another lap from Meusnier, Steve Williams, and then we've got coming up very well the 20 car of Gregor Zechka. So Zechka, the German driver, has got a good run here on Steve Williams. He might find his way through on the inside. He clouts the curb, slithers to the side of the circuit, and as a result Williams able to hold on around the outside as they make their way through this new twisty infield section. Now, is it Steve Williams who is going to hold on? No, he's not. Zechka has got that third place, but he runs very wide. Now, that is the wet line. He can find the grip on the outside of the circuit there, using the camber to full advantage. So Zechka elevates himself up into third position as they accelerate along the back straight, although Williams is looking to fight back. And in these conditions, it's very difficult, really, to even get full throttle going, because there is still a little bit of standing water on the track. They come into the chicane. Williams braking nice and early ahead of Zechka, and they both just go across the curbs. Although they're low line curbs, you can see the paint on them, just how slippery they are. Accelerating out of the chicane they go, the race leader. Meanwhile, towards the end of another lap, as you can see the advantage he's got over the man in second place, Jean-Baptiste Meusnier, then third Gregor Zechka, fourth Steve Williams, and it's Christophe Desandre in fifth place as Williams loses it. Steve Williams, around he goes. So we were saying it's treacherous on the straights into the Armco barrier. Don't think he'll have done too much damage there. Sort of went in completely sideways, and it was more of a kiss than a heavy clout. You can see him, well, Williams finding the grass here in Holland as he ploughs his way back onto the circuit. Bow wave being kicked up as he is going to rejoin a long, long way down the order. So back onto the track goes Steve Williams. So Stevens in the white machine chasing down the black, orange and Jackson Pollock machine of Christophe Desandre. Here's the battle for second place. Jean-Baptiste Meusnier coming under all sorts of pressure from Gregor Zechka. The Exige is really coming to the fore at Assen today. Well, Zechka having a slightly optimistic look there to the inside of Meusnier. I don't think he's going to find a way through, although Meusnier gives him racing room. Zechka just holding the inside line, very boldly putting two wheels on the curbs, and again it seems to work for him, because Greg Zechka gains the place as they then have a drag race along the back straight. This of course is where we lost Steve Williams, so they both need to be a little bit careful, but Zechka's done it, gaining the place as he turns in a little bit too early, kicking up a puddle, and absolutely no fear from the German Gregor Zechka, who well, maybe the three flowing twists and turns at Assen reminds him a little bit of the Nürburgring, and so he rather likes the track. Anyway, he goes through the final chicane, kicking up puddles in his wake. So Gregory Rass is now chasing down John Rass, who in turn has still got Henry Stiegmans ahead of him, as Jean-Baptiste Meusnier looking a bit lurid as he goes through the left-hander. Is that going to give Zečka the opening? Well, Zečka certainly thinks it will. Mersnier covers the line in time, sort of, and he runs a little bit wide, so it enables Gregor Zečka to draw alongside, and these two living very dangerously indeed. You can see that certainly through the corners they're both sliding somewhat, but they haven't made contact, so they're clearly within their limits, but only just about, I'd say. Here is a cracking production class battle between James Knight and Markus Nikovic, as we've got wave-shade flags, and that's Zečka, and Gregor Zečka's gone off. Well, we saw the cars were sliding around, and well, Zečka's been caught out at the final chicane. So often the case here at Assen. In these damp conditions, the 211s once more to the fore as they charge along this very fast back section of the circuit. Will bring them through then to the almost flat left-hander, and then the final chicane as they go through the puddle. And then Zečka still challenging Christophe Lisandre, kicking up spray. Here's the left-hander that then brings them into that squirt into the final chicane, and Lisandre already going defensive. Zečka looking to the outside, Lisandre to the right-hand side of your shot, Zečka to the left, and it is Lisandre who prevails. So Christophe Lisandre remains in second place. He also gets a very good run through the chicane and could well be challenging Steve Williams here as they come through to complete the first lap of the race. So into lap 2 they go. Lisandre looking to the inside of Steve Williams. Also in the background, Gregory Rass looking to the inside of Mark Schiffer, but it's Lisandre who launches for the lead. But Williams learning a trick or two from Christophe Lisandre, holding the outside line as they then go into this area of incredibly poor visibility, and Zečka, with the benefit of a windscreen, able to see where he's going, looks to the inside of Christophe Lisandre. Is he able to pick his way through? Yes, he is. Although Williams takes a very slow run through the whole sequence, so they all bottle up behind Steve Williams. It's like Friday night on the M25. We've got all 6 leaders fanning out behind Steve Williams, with the exception of Christophe Lisandre, who's found some space. He leads momentarily. Williams then gets a better exit from the left-hander, kicking up plumes of spray. Zečka has found his way through into second position. Absolutely brilliant battle this. The Rasses are still squabbling over 5th and 6th place. So the leading 6 cars making their way into the chicane in the middle of the back straight. Gregor Zečka just on the curbs on the X as he puts the throttle down, and around he goes, and Zečka spins from second position. He goes round once, twice, finds a gear and rejoins. Well, he's in good company. That's Freddie Lawson crashed out whilst leading the 1985 Dutch TT. Not that Gregor Zečka could be thinking that at the moment, but he's still very much in touch. You can see him sliding in the back of the screen, so it gives Steve Williams a good advantage over Christophe Lisandre, Mark Schiffer, Gregory Rass, who defends from John Rass, and as he's under pressure from the recovering Gregor Zečka. Zečka, who was in the leading group in the early stages, he had that spin and is now picking his way back up. You can see Zečka, the rear of the car, moving around. He's being very bold with his right foot onto the accelerator as he looks to move past Mark Goudet. Goudet doesn't want to give it to him too easily and holds the line, so Zečka just settles in behind Mark Goudet. Now we should be able to find some space up the inside line here as we go into left-hander, so that's exactly what he does. And then does he run out a little bit too wide? No, he doesn't. He then goes slightly defensive as they run towards the chicane before moving across, claim the racing line. So another position reclaimed for Gregor Zečka, where he runs a bit wide through the chicane. And, well, Zečka could be advised not to be too bold, because yesterday, of course, he became good friends with the tyre barrier just about there in the closing stage of the race. So Zečka trying to move his way up the order as Pete Story looks the inside of Laurent Febvre at the very head of the shot. Story recovering from his first lap spin in this race. Gregor Zečka is one of those drivers you could watch all day, because the car is moving around so much underneath him, and somehow he always seems to more or less keep it pointing in the right direction, and keep it in the right direction going very quickly indeed, as the late afternoon sun beginning to fall low in the sky and causing the water on the track to really glisten in the driver's eyes. Taking the very wide swooping line around the left-hander is Gregor Zečka. That gives him a good exit onto the straight, although he again becomes very well acquainted with the curbs on the exit, and you just don't want to get your foot down too early on those painted curves, because the car will just turn around on a dime. So Gregor Zečka, for the moment, keeping Mark Goudet at bay into the chicane on the back straight. This is where Zečka spun earlier in the race. Perhaps unsurprisingly, given that curbs a wide berth. Markus Nikovic leading the production class